Welcome to Joy Unfiltered. I'm Rachel, and this is a podcast about joy. Not the shiny performative kind, not the everything happens for a reason kind. This is joy as a strategy, a way to stay steady when life feels loud, a way to stay human when things are hard, a way to lead, love, and live without burning out or checking out. Some episodes will be just me. Some will be honest conversations with people who have lived their way into a deeper, truer joy. No fixing, no bypassing, just real stories, real tools, and room to breathe. Let's get into it. Well, welcome to or welcome back to Joy Unfiltered. I am Rachel, your host, and I have a delightful conversation, or we have a delightful conversation ahead of us. Today, I have fellow author and fellow St. Paulite with me today, Peg Guilfoyle. And honestly, normally I give a big bio about the guest, but today I think we're going to start a little bit different. And as I said, Peg is a fellow author, so I am going to have her read just a bit out of her book, I for Joy, to start off with, and then we'll get into more of a bio. But I wanted to set the stage by having her just read a little bit, delight us from the beginning from her new book, I for Joy.
I'm delighted to be sitting with you. Delighted to be sitting with you. The new book, as you point out, is An Eye for Joy, Noticing the Good World Everywhere. It's a book about everyday joy, finding, noticing all the good things that are in this amazing and beautiful world. My favorite quote that I put on the back of the book was from Chris Crowley. Do you know him? He's an interesting writer. He wrote a book called a series of books called Younger Next Year. And when I gave him this book to read, he summed it up in 3 words. These are my 3 favorite words now: smart, fun, and joyous. So the backstory about this book, and this is something that I write about in the new book, it was born from an essay series that started some years ago. And it started more or less like this. And this is just a touch from the prologue, as you ask, Rachel. When my children were small, and we gathered at the dinner table, I often made a little maternal speech. Tell me one thing, I would say, that you saw or heard or thought or learned today that was beautiful or funny or interesting or new. It was a way of talking and getting them to talk to me, but I also wanted them to learn a kind of perception. I wanted the beautiful or interesting or funny or new things to pop out from the background, surrounded by a little glow, a little buzz, and lodge themselves in their consciousness. I didn't want them to miss the wondrous details that are enmeshed in daily life. I believe that when we are alert, human beings tend to self-sow like poppies, with beauty and splendor and awe. One little sighting leads to another, and one's eye sharpens for the lovely, and soon you notice it everywhere. So this is a book about the inclination toward joy. It's a book about the joy that you can find in all the parts of your life, in art, in the world, the natural world, and particularly and always what you find in the joy with other people, because these little tiny connections, whether they're big or whether they're small, are really what knit the world together in a good way.
And isn't that a lovely sentiment? So thank you for sharing that. But talking about finding joy in other people, it's so interesting that that is how, even though we both live in St. Paul right now, we did not know each other, but joy brought us together, right?
It did. It did. And what a delightful encounter.
Yes, yes, yes. For those of you listening who don't know, I had my own book launch, I don't know, must have been 6 weeks ago or so. And in walked Peg, who I did not know, which was again delightful. And she introduced herself and we exchanged books. And now we've started having joy conversations since then. And a second side note about that, the world is a small place. It turns out when Peg walked in, there was someone else in the room who knew Peg. So we knew each other through other people and did not know that. So what a fun way to bring a little bit of joy. But I do know, even though I say you are from St. Paul, you are my fellow St. Paulite, you are not actually from here originally. So I would love you to tell the listeners just a little backstory. You can choose the story or stories about how it came to be that you came to live in this beautiful city of St. Paul, Minnesota.
It is a beautiful city, isn't it? And the sun is shining today. What a relief from the grayness and the cold, hard winter that we've had. So it's particularly beautiful today. So you're right, Rachel. I grew up in Chicago, went to Indiana University, but I traveled up here originally to work at the Guthrie, the old Guthrie. One of my lives, everybody has more than one life, right? One of my lives was as a stage manager and production manager, and I came to the Guthrie in the 80s to work for the artistic directors Levi Chule and Garland Wright. Um, the Guthrie is a place that shaped who I am, shaped my aesthetic, shaped my sense of humor. The theater is very funny on a daily basis. Um, and I wrote a book when I was at the Guthrie, which is a history of the Guthrie, which they still sell over at the Guthrie gift shop. So that was my first book. I have a book in the drawer, like all writers, which is a history of the old State Fair carousel, the one that is now in Como Park near the conservatory. But I told the story about sitting with my children and trying to encourage them to notice the beauties of the world. And the immediate backstory for this book is that during COVID times, when things were gray and things seemed particularly difficult, it seemed to me to be more important than ever to remember that these small beauties and small joys and small wonders still exist in the world, and to lift them up and illuminate them and share them with others was the source of an essay series that I started writing during COVID times. And I'm still writing it. It's called Motley Peg. Motley because it's about, everything that I see. So I'm an essayist, and essayists, at least this essayist, you have the freedom as an essayist to write about absolutely anything that piques your interest. And for me, I walk through the world and I see something and I say, huh, that's interesting. I think I'll think about that. I think I'll write about that. And that's the source for the essay series, which is online, and also for this book. So
Hmm.
it's a way of being uh, curious and staying alert to the undoubted beauties of the world, even when the world is, maybe especially when the world is difficult. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And it makes me think, what makes me wonder, as you were writing some of these essays, because a lot of the things that you have written, and you use the word interesting, so things can be interesting and not necessarily have the through line of joy, because those
Mhm.
I believe are different concepts. What made you look at some of the essays that you were writing and then decide, or did you decide beforehand that joy was going to be the through line and then you wrote for that? Or did you look at your essays and think, oh, huh, this is interesting that the through line is joy, and I'm going to put all of those together in this publication?
It's a little bit of both, but I think that the if it's not too lofty to call it a philosophy, I think the organizing idea behind that is that joy exists in the world. Joy is something that people need in their lives. It doesn't have to be winning the lottery. It can be something
Mhm.
small that you run across by accident. But it is my premise that the more you look for joy, the more you find joy, and the more you notice it. And that is good for the spirit, and it's good for the world.
Yeah, those of you listening to the podcast or know anything about me, am on that same train, that I believe that once you decide that you are going to notice joy, and I believe it has to do with brain science, but that when you notice joy, that then your brain filters more joy for you so that you continue to notice more joy. But what if, and you talked about that you started coming up with this, or this came to maybe fruition during COVID, which was a challenging time for everybody across the world. What if you are in that COVID like space? How do you start noticing joy? What's the first impetus, or what are some things that you did or that you see other people doing to start the cycle?
I think there are some things that are discernible to do to sort of uh, get yourself on that train, as you say, Rachel. And I can say what works for me, but I think this works for a lot of people. I'm very fortunate that I'm in close contact with my readers, so they always write to me and tell me what they think. And these are some of the things that they say to me. So staying open to the odd and the interesting things in the world, being willing to seek and research and find out backstories. Backstories are very big for me. Talking with strangers, being curious, and importantly, finding people who are joyous by nature or habit and spending time with them. We recognize these people. Even when you see them on the street, you can see who these people are. And I write some essays about seeing people on the street and thinking, wow, look at you. When you see something, anything at all that piques your interest, look harder. Look for the backstory. You can revisit earlier in life passions. You can find a new focus. You can follow the sparks. And one of my favorites is to become a trusted friend of a small child and listen to
Mm.
them seeing the world through their brand new eyes. And I do write about this in the book. I wrote an essay called Run with the Enthusiasts because enthusiasts sparkle. Enthusiastic people sparkle, no matter what their passion is. And that sparkle can be transmitted.
It rubs off a little bit.
It
So
does.
honestly, and would you have a part of that that you could read for us, or a section of that piece of it? I love, I mean,
I do.
there are so many, for those of you who are just listening, Peg and I are both holding her book right now, and there's so many beautiful essays. Yes, so many beautiful
Oh,
essays
look,
in
matching
the,
book.
yeah, in the book. But is there a part of that one in particular that you could read that would be, I'm sure, interesting for our
I would
listeners?
love to. Just a portion of it. So
Yeah.
this essay is called "Run with the Enthusiasts." Says I, am very partial to enthusiasts. It almost doesn't matter what their passions are. It's the ardor itself that sparkles and attracts. We are drawn to bright-eyed enthusiasm, and some of that voltage, nearly discernible, rubs off. It's unmistakable. It's a two-way thing. We perceive it, we're drawn to it, we reflect it, and we catch it. We are ignitable. And then I go on to give some examples of enthusiasts that I've run into just by happenstance. I was traveling in Las Vegas once. I wandered into the back of a bodybuilding competition and I watched the posing and the crowd. I was fascinated. An offstage builder, oiled and muscled, smiled at me and said, "This is a very good family sport." And at that moment, I completely believed what she was saying because of her enthusiasts who can be found everywhere. I have a friend in the horse industry, and her enthusiasms are the arcane details of breeding programs and the bright, soft look of a newborn foal and the consumption of evening champagne. I know a plein air painter, met one, who thrills to the impossible task of representing the ever-changing sky on canvas. And it can be anything. Enthusiasm is transmissible, and I would argue that it's life-giving. It's not the same as expertise or charm or even magnetism. It's different from the impulse to educate. It is, in a way, a child's capacity for engagement and wonder. It's a natural bubbler, as contagious as laughter and the absolute opposite of boredom. In all its insidious manifestations, there is no yawn about it. It's a gift you have and a gift you can give. If you love something and come alive with it, then tell the world about it. There are 8 billion people on this planet. Your cohort is out there. Go and find them. You'll have a lot to talk about. And that essay is
Mm.
called Run with the Enthusiasts.
Run with the enthusiast. And I love, well, one, I just love it. But I think it also goes to this whole piece about, and I was talking with another group about the art of giving your own gifts, right? So
Mhm.
not we've all been given, or I think that we've all been given gifts, and I call the universe God. So we've all been given gifts by God or from God, and it is our responsibility to share those gifts, right?
It
Because
is.
we need to share those gifts. The question that I had posed in my community was, is it easier, is it easier to give or receive? And most people, the conversation is, oh, I like giving gifts. And so then the question I posed back was, well, if you like giving gifts, somebody has to be the receiver.
Mhm.
Right? So we also need to learn how to receive. So I love how that you talk about spend time with the people that are being enthusiastic about their gifts because they're giving it to you. So you need to learn how to be that receiver. So the receiver of joy as
That's
well.
right. That's right. And it's a thing that can involve engagement with others, and it's also a thing that you could observe as you walk through the world. These little moments of joy are there. They're sparkly little jewels that you can find. Now, not to be too much of a Pollyanna, we know the world can be difficult. We know the difficulties of the world can be challenging. But my argument is that when the world is gray, when the world is difficult, it's even more important to notice the beauteous stuff. Bring it in. The world comes at us every day, Rachel, you know this, in a flood of sensation. We're overwhelmed every day with sensation. And it's an act of will. It's a conscious act to, as the sensation overwhelms you, the tidal wave tumbles you over, to look at that sensation of that flood of sensation and notice the good stuff. Hence my subtitle, Noticing the Good World Everywhere.
Yes. And that is something that we often talk about in this community as well is you're right, it's not about being a Pollyanna. And I often feel like I have to come with that caveat. Um,
Mhm.
and it's more about the fact I believe that because I have practiced the habit of joy. So
That's right.
it does come a little more easy to me because I've practiced that, but anybody can practice that as well. And again, it's not as though it's not rose colored glasses. I heard someone say that we are looking through maybe rose tinted glasses because that might be true and I will say, guilty of rose tinted glasses, not ignoring the fact that reality exists. However, because of the practice of joy, the way in which I believe that it changes your brain, or the way in which the science says it changes your brain, is that you have more options, or you
Mhm.
have the ability to see more possibilities for solving issues or dealing with the hard things. So, one, it gives you that ability, but then as well, you can see, yes, there are clouds, let's say, but the sun still exists behind the clouds, right? And somebody said to me once that you can't see the rain. Is it that you can't see the rainbow if you're looking into the sun? You can only see the rainbows if you're looking into the clouds.
Oh,
What a beautiful metaphor for that, right? Because the sun has to be behind you in order to be reflecting off of all the molecules in the clouds, and that's where you see the rainbow, not if you turn around and look at the sun. So
in brain terms, you would know about this, Rachel. You know that thing about 10,000 hours, how you have to practice. What is that premise? How would you state that? I wonder whether we could say that 10,000 hours of practice in noticing the beauties and joy in the world might lead to a rounded and joyful life.
I'm gonna get on board. on that. Yes. And I think for what you said though, Peg, it's also about it's about noticing the small things so that when we talk about the 10,000 hours, we can talk about the minutes of
Right,
noticing. We don't
right.
need to overwhelm ourselves by thinking about, oh, 10,000 hours is so many. No, you have to do that 1 minute at a time.
No,
So,
and 1 minute is often enough to see something beautiful.
right, right. I can call it going on a joy walk. I read, I can't remember who it was that I read that said, who's the monk? Jay Shetty. He wrote something about that when he was in the monastery. Monastery is that? No, that's anyway, when he was practicing to be a monk,
Mhm.
that his person in charge, instructor, I don't know what they call them, would say, okay, you're going on the same walk every day, but it's not the same walk every day because you change and everything changes, even if it's the same path, it's not the same path. There's a different flower that blooms. There's a different bug that's walking across. Like, how do you notice the difference? So how can we notice that joy when we're washing the dishes or when we're doing the laundry or when we're doing the mundane things of sitting in the carpool lane picking up your kid from what is that thing that brings you joy?
So, you and I both know this. We both know as writers that it takes a long time to make a book. There's a long time. There's a long production period with a book. And one of the things that I've done is I take my essay series, my series of short essays called Motley Peg, and I write a new short essay every couple of weeks. And I put them up on my website. It's a subscriber situation. I would love it if people wanted to hear a little shot of joy or interest or curiosity or awe or wonder every couple of weeks with me. But can I give you an example of one of
Yeah,
those?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Tiny, tiny, tiny thing. But honestly, I was in a resort town in a new grocery store where I'd never been in before. And I was doing my thing. I was getting whatever I was getting, and I had my list and whatever else. And so I was walking down one of the aisles, and you know the big signs that hang over the aisles that say what's in the aisle? So in this grocery store, there was a sign. It said, aisle 4, pasta, canned tomatoes, canned seafood, $1 million. And
Huh,
I stopped.
I need to go down that aisle.
And obviously, I went down that aisle. And honestly, Rachel, I was hoping for a BOGO. I was hoping for a buy one, get one. And one of the young staffers at this grocery store saw me stop, saw me look at the sign and stop, and turn left to go down into aisle 4 and trailed me down the aisle to explain how the staff had put this up just as a way of relating to their customers and how much fun people had looking through the aisles for the $1 million that would be available in aisle 4. So a small thing. If I hadn't been looking, I wouldn't have seen it. But I've got so much pleasure, and I wrote an essay about it. It's on the website under the Motley Peg rubric, and people have written to me and laughed about this little tiny thing that was just a little sparky moment in the day.
I I love it. Now I
That's
want to go to
great.
the grocery store and find my own
I
$1 million there. That's but your whole point and the
Oh,
point
oh, oh.
yeah, yeah, go
One
ahead.
one more thing. And
Yeah.
aisle 5, one aisle over, the bottom one, such and such, such and such, such and such. The bottom one was lost husband.
Oh, but
There's
what makes me
always,
laugh is that all of the delightfulness that is continuing to be had from that. But I wonder even the thought process of those. I mean, what a delightful staff meeting, right? Of those kids maybe, or of the people that
yeah,
work in that supermarket or the grocery store. That I mean, think about your life. You work in a grocery store. Maybe not the world's most interesting, fulfilling, maybe it is job, but if you are stocking shelves, maybe not the most fulfilling, but what a way to be joyful in your job,
that's
right?
right. And to share a little bit of that joy. And then this young staffer trailed me into the aisle so we could laugh about it together, which
Right.
is a human to human moment.
So two things in joy. One, noticing, to connection, because I talk about that joy is enhanced, right, when we are connecting and sharing that with
Mhm.
others. And that thing makes me think, Peg, too, about um the whole concept of people saying, oh, you're just lucky, good things just happen to you. And I think, I wonder if all there were a lot of people that probably walked into that same grocery store that did not see that sign, right? Because they weren't looking, they weren't observing, they weren't noticing. So you
Mhm.
wonder how many other things that lucky people, because you were lucky to have noticed that people who feel that they're not lucky, maybe they're just not noticing all of the amazing things happening to them. I
But
don't know.
isn't, Rachel, it relative to your book, isn't it a choice? It's a choice. It's a, you use, I think, the word strategy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a way of moving through the world that uh, is deliberately open to the beauties that surround us that get washed away in that titanic flood that I was talking about a minute ago, how the world just overwhelms us. But those things are there. They're there. You have to look.
You have to look, you have to choose. It's all, I do believe that the joy is, or that piece of joy is an action. It's an action that
Mm.
we get to, we have the opportunity to choose those things. And I do believe that it goes back to that whole piece, it's the RRAS, the reticular activating system, that when we start noticing, our brain has billions of pieces of information that it has to filter into our thought process. And so it's filtering through all of these pieces of information. And if we tell our brains, filter the joy in, it will filter the joy. And just like when you're going to buy a new car and you're going to go buy a red Audi, all of a sudden you see all of the red Audis out there. They were always out there, but your brain now is focused on finding them for you. And so we can brainwash ourselves to find joy.
And isn't that great that you come at it from a science perspective and I come at it from a writerly perspective? And yet, I think, let's see, are my hands on the screen?
Yep.
We're
Yep.
moving toward the same area.
Absolutely. And I think it takes both. And it makes me think of the conversations. My sister is a pastor, and I come from the wellness coaching space, but we then come together and we often have the same conversations with people, but we just start from different spaces. So she's starting from a spiritual space, I might be starting from the take care of your body space, but we both end up talking about the whole person, right? So
Hmm.
the same thing with joy. You can start from the scientific
Hmm.
space, or you can start from the more either scholarly space, or you can start from the more artistic space and come to the same conclusion that let's just let's just notice more of it to bring more of that into our lives.
So on my Motley Peg essay
Yeah.
series, I have I'm so lucky to be in conversation with my readers who write to me. As I say, I put out these essays, people write back to me and tell me what they like about them. So it's a what would I call it? A self-reinforcing community that looks for joy and shares joy. Um, and that's reflected in the book, An Eye for Joy, and it's also reflected in the essay series. And I would venture to say that it's reflected in the vision of the people uh, who acquire this habit, who try to acquire this habit.
Right. Yeah, I
Habit
love it.
makes
So
it sound like something that's not enjoyable. Actually, it's thrilling and wonderful and
yeah,
funny. The world is very funny, Rachel.
it certainly can be if we choose to allow that piece of it. So Motley Peg is something you write every, did you say every couple of weeks that people
Every couple
can?
of weeks, yes, every couple of weeks, and these little essays, they're short. One of my readers wrote back to me and said, "Oh, Peg, I love your work. It's so digestible." And I had to think about that. I think that means short, which is fine. Um, but I can write about I write about, I just put out a little short essay because we're in the month of March in 2026. That's spring, and it's also Bach's birthday. And I put out a little essay about a poem which celebrates Bach's birthday in a lyrical and astounding way. In Motley Peg is also the piece about aisle four, finding that $1 million in aisle four.
I love it.
And also history. You mentioned St. Paul. Um, uh, what I find uh, what I find is that the world is full of joy, as we've been talking about. It's also full of amazing things that have interesting backstories that you've never seen. There's an essay in the book about something that's called the Airway Beacon in St. Paul.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
Airway Beacon is an historical structure which sits on the bluff way up over the Mississippi. I got interested in it, and when I started looking at it and researching it, I found wonderful backstories about led me down the garden path into early aviation and how people navigated with the mail bags from Chicago in the early days of flight. But hmm, and that started just from looking at
Yeah.
something and saying, huh, what is that?
Yeah, I appreciate your curiosity. So I am also curious. So you have written a number of books, and I not to put you in the spot, what are you reading besides your
Oh,
books? Like,
that's
what
an
are other
interesting
things that
idea.
you are reading or podcasts
Actually,
that you're listening to?
that's really an interesting question. I am reading, I've joined a new book club, new to me. I've been with them, I think, about 3 years, but it's like a 40-year-old book club. And I had to propose the book, and it's a fiction book club. And I find, as you can probably tell, Rachel, I find the world so interesting that I read a lot of nonfiction,
Hmm.
and not that much fiction. But I did suggest a book called Virgil Wander, by a novelist named Leif Anger,
Hmm.
Enger. And that's coming up for discussion later on this month. And I like a I like a touch, you can probably tell this. I like a touch of magic. I like a
Hmm.
touch of
Hmm.
magic
Hmm.
in the world. And this book takes place on the North Shore, has interesting characters and a little touch of magic in it. So I have been enjoying that. And I read a lot of nonfiction all the time.
Okay. I actually have read that one, and there is that little touch of magic in there that I didn't expect exactly because I didn't know what to expect when I read it, but I love,
I,
okay. So those of you who haven't read it, Virgil Wander, oh, it's Leaf or Leif, what's
Enger, Anger.
Anger. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else that you are, any podcasts, anything else you're listening to besides, of course, Joy Unfiltered at some
I'm
point?
actually, in terms of finding joy, I'm starting I've been a singer my whole life,
Hmm.
but I'm not in a choir because my rattle-scattle life doesn't permit me to be on a regular choir schedule. But last year and again this year, I've started picking up community choirs to sing with. So
Cool.
I am singing this week with the Bach Society Choir. And I'll be singing later on in the summer with the Oratorio Society Choir. So, and last summer, I sang with a choir, which turned out to sort of to my pleasant surprise, turned out to be a choir that's based in barbershop quartet music, and went to this with a singing pal, and then ended up singing the Star Spangled Banner at one of the Saints games right down
Oh my
here in
goodness.
downtown St.
Oh,
Paul. So a wide variety of singing, which connects connects people. When you open your mouth and you sing with people, you are connected with them, as we've seen in the singing resistance this winter.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So singing, doing a little bit of writing for the Motley Peg.
Yes.
Is the next book already in your
The
head?
next book is living in the back of my head,
Okay.
and it's going to take a while for it to reveal itself to me. So hmm, right now I'm putting a lot of it's not putting attention into, it's leaving the gateway to attention open for little essays that can be part of the Motley Peg series, and also staying connected with those readers, which I love.
Lovely, lovely. Well, anything else that is joyful in your life or any other little pieces of wisdom that you would like to leave, joyful wisdom that you would like to leave the listeners with today?
Joyful, let's see, joyful wisdom. So, I want to say that I'm very happy with the way people are reacting to this book.
Mhm.
People love this book. They give it to other people. I love this. A book like this finds its readers small pieces at a time. So if people read the book, it's my hope that they will put up reviews of the book and, very importantly, give it to someone else who will also love it. I'm doing book club visits. I love to sit down with book people and talk about the books that they love, my book, and also the writing life. I talk a lot about the writing life. Um, and I talked about the source of this, but the Motley Peg, the combination of the Motley Peg series and this book and my previous books, this is my sixth or seventh book, including the Guthrie book. But the glimpses that are gathered here in this work build, I think, a solid case for wonder, a solid case. The good world is not always easy, but it is beautiful and big and bracing and bright. And paying attention is, I think, a life-saving spiritual practice, and anyone can do it. All these things that I write about retain their beauty and their strength. But it's really, as we said, Rachel, and as you and I learned when we sat down together for the first time, the joy and the intimacy of human interaction, however small it is, however sporadic it is, they remind us that connection and stories are what knit this world, this splendid and complicated world, together. And it always world. Joy is life-sustaining, it's life-giving, and it's more important than ever for everyone.
Oh, what a beautiful way to end this. I enjoyed our conversation today. I've enjoyed every interaction that we have had, Peg. And if people want to find you, if people want to invite you to a book club, if people want to come to some of your book signings or just get more of you, or they want to read Motley Peg, where do they find you?
Find me. The book is available. I want to say the book is available online. So it's on Amazon. It's on bookshop.org. If you buy on Bookshop, they let you give money to your favorite bookstore. It's in independent bookstores as well. The best way to find me is through my website, which is pegguilfoyle.com. I do have a number of events that can be that are listed on the website, and you can find me through the website and also find the Motley Peg essays on the website. And I think that you might find something to like there. Pegguilfoyle.com.
I am sure the listeners will find something. So go there. I will put that in the show notes. So I will put all those links in the show notes. Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing the joy today. I have enjoyed the conversation. And to all of the listeners, remember, I am Rachel from Joy Unfiltered, and I am celebrating you today and every day. So have fun, live well, enjoy.